Scott, just so our viewers understand, you're completely separate from the VA, although you do work together.
Right. The National Archives and Records Administration is an independent agency of the government. It's not, aside from working with the VA and other federal agencies, it's not part of DoD, it's not part of the VA, it's not part of any of the military departments.
Got it. And tell us about this fire that happened in 1973 and how it's impacted veterans' records.
Okay, so back in the 70s, we were the central repository for military service records. So whenever a service member got out from any branch of the military, their records would go from their field command to their headquarters and then eventually get retired to the National Personnel Records Center. And back then, we're talking about all analog records, paper or microfilm, they weren't digitized back then. So picture a large warehouse full of shelving units that are full of cardboard boxes holding paper records. And back in 1973, there was a fire in the building that destroyed somewhere between 16 to 18 million official military personnel records. And the impact was the veterans of the Army and the Air Force from the World War II and Korea era and earlier.
It's a lot of people.
It's a ton of people. And so the government didn't just throw up its arms when that happened. There was an immediate effort before the flames were even extinguished. The government had assembled a task group that essentially directed that any record that might normally be eligible for like disposal, like a pay voucher, something like that, any record by any agency of the government that could verify service was to be retained and then eventually consolidated in St. Louis. So although we've lost 16 to 18 million official military personnel records, we have a lot of these auxiliary records that are located in this building. So when we get a request from a veteran and we don't have an official military personnel folder, and based on the dates of service and the branch of service, we surmise it was lost in the fire, then we can go to these alternate sources to try to reconstruct the basic service. And if we're looking for 3 data points. If we can get the date of entry, data separation, and the character of service, then we can issue a document that can be used in lieu of a DD-214 for the purpose of securing benefits.
And how long does that process take to issue that certificate of service for a veteran whose records were lost?
So if we have enough information and we don't have any problems, we have an auxiliary record in our holdings, it can be done pretty quickly. The volume of records we get from that generation is, of course, lower today than it would have been, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So in a lot of instances, we're able to do it within a matter of 2 weeks. A lot of requests we get today that pertain to men and women who served at that point in history are, unfortunately, their requests to support burial services, funeral services. And those are often urgently needed. So in many cases, we can do it same day or overnight to support whenever the funeral service is scheduled. But our ability to be successful is often a function of the amount of information that we are able to get from the requester themselves. So if a lot of the requests we get are actually like for genealogists who want to know more about their ancestors. And unfortunately, if they don't have a lot of information to provide us and their ancestor has a very common name, it can be a lot more complicated for us and it could take longer.
And is the service free for veterans or their family?
Yeah, so anytime a record is requested, if it's needed to support a benefit, it's free. When records are accessioned into the National Archives and they're legally owned by the National Archives instead of owned by the military departments, there could be some fees involved for accessing the records, but if it's for benefit, we would waive them.
Okay. And yeah, obviously this is not new. I mean, we're just learning about it through this veteran that we're talking to, but obviously this is something that the government's been dealing with for decades.
Yes, so we've reconstructed, I want to say 5.56 million records since the fire occurred. So what happens is whenever we receive a request, that's what sets in motion the reconstruction process. So if we receive a request and we find that we don't have a record and we determine that it's because it was likely lost in the fire, that's when the reconstruction process will begin.
Did they ever determine the cause of the fire?
No, there were multiple investigations, but they were all inconclusive. There was never a cause determined. But the building was built in the 1950s and it was built without a sprinkler system. And by my understanding is by the 1970s, it had become regulatory, but there was a grandfather clause for compliance, and the government was in the process of the procurement of a sprinkler system when the fire occurred.